Shalom, shalom. Set apart brothers. The key to maintaining your health. Understanding fatty liver. You know, man, it's no secret that in Western culture, you know, when you see stuff labeled as healthy, it's not really pertaining to your actual health, your body, what's going on inside. My background, which I don't talk about a lot, unless I reference or am talking about videos like this, topics like this, is kinesiology. Okay. You know, upon further research, you know, being a certified nutritionist, certified strength and conditioning coach, certified, you know, personal trainer through the ISSA, you know, having uh, expansive amounts of times of studying in kinesiology, you know, on that degree, throughout that degree tenure and timeline. Man, a lot of the stuff academically that you learn is not based in truth. You know, the food pyramid, not based in truth. 3 meals a day. You know, we grew up on breakfast is the most important meal of the day. We grew up on that as men. Not true. Man, when you look culturally, man, our ancestors did not eat 3 meals a day. 3 meals a day was instituted by the Rockefellers, introduced by the Rockefellers, because they could make more money selling food. You know, man, when you read the title, Understanding a Fatty Liver, man, I want you to understand that you don't have to be fat, look obese, you know, you don't have to look either one of those, but as a man, you still can be suffering from a fatty liver. Man, I want you to think about the guy who is skinny. The guy who is skinny has never had to worry about his weight management, and never had to go on a diet in his life. I want you to think about the skinny brother who has a high metabolism, but you know, when you look at his frame, you can see that there's not much muscle density or structure there. So what we call skinny chunky, skinny fat, meaning you're skinny, you've got a high metabolism, but when we get around your waistline, you've got love handles, okay? There's skinny men out there with that. And, you know, that's caused by visceral fat, okay? And all of this stems from a fatty liver. You know, when you think about the person or the brother who is actually obese, fat, some people don't like that term, you know, but it is what it is. You know, and you got that Medea meat under your arm. You know, you didn't went from having pectoralis major and minor to pectoralis boob. You know, you got a gut, a belly, your thighs rubbed together. You know, that is a case of, you know, a fatty liver at its extreme. Man, the number one thing that causes a fatty liver in men is increased calories, calorie surplus. Man, your liver is going to send signals everywhere else and tell the body, man, I can't handle these increased calories. So anytime When you think about digestion, digestion in basic form is like, okay, you put a piece of toilet paper, it might disintegrate and break into smaller pieces, but it's going the direction it needs to. When you think about increased calories, man, now you have a digestion problem. Instead of the food you eat, which is energy, which we're told is calories, all calories aren't created equal. Now you've got stuff getting processed through the liver, and your liver saying, whoa, I can't handle all this. Man, you had French toast sticks for breakfast. You had a big bowl of cereal for breakfast, high sugary cereal for lunch. Man, you had a Big Mac meal for dinner. You had you know, fried chicken. Man, your liver is saying, I can't handle all that. And what it does is instead of that toilet paper going all the way out to where it needs to go, you've got a clog and it no longer will accept any more calories. That's your liver. Your liver is then going to start turning this into fat. So when you think about fatty liver, now that triggers an increase of visceral fat. Visceral fat is around your organs. It is the worst kind of fat that you want to have. It's the fat that you needed to maintain. You've got men out there that say, man, I ain't worried about my gut. I just want to have nice arms. No, you need to be worried about that visceral fat around your organs because that's what's going to take you out. Man, increased calories, surplus of calories daily, and fatty liver can lead to dementia. Too much sugar in the body correlating to the brain is dementia. Too much surplus calories, in the body is fatty liver, pancreas overload. So you think about your pancreas regulating blood sugar. Now it's out of whack. Now your body is saying, hey, man, we got a surplus of calories. So we're going to store this. It don't matter whether it's fats, proteins, or carbohydrates. Because you've got a surplus, your body is going to say, yeah, let's store that. And once your body, is told to store fat, this is why for overweight men, initially losing weight is very difficult. Once you lower the visceral fat and get that rolling, man, that's a sign that your body is processing function properly. But what happens is a lot of men work out for a month, 2 months, you lose a couple pounds, which is really oftentimes water. You got men doing sodium, I think it's sodium citrate, sodium nitrate, clear stuff in that bottle. You drink half a bottle of that, and you're like, man, I'm cleansed. But you didn't really target the problem. There is no shortcut to attacking a fatty liver. There is no easy path. There is no, when you think about pills and supplements that you get to burn fat, man, these things have a lot of which have different herbs and things in their green tea extract, a lot of different uh, herbal compounds in there that will help promote the process. But man, you got to put in the work. And the work when it comes to visceral fat is in the kitchen and what you put in your mouth. So most of us as men, the reason we're unhealthy, and when I say unhealthy, you might think, man, I look good. You might be telling yourself, man, I look good, tighten up my arms a little bit and I'm in there. But your blood work is another indicator that you've got a fatty liver. When you look at family history of people who have type 2 diabetes, you know, man, one thing you're going to realize is a lot of them are overweight and it comes from fatty liver. I come from family that they promote being big. Ooh, look at that boy. That boy sure can eat. Give him some more food. They promote being big. And some children, some young boys that are big and heavyweight, you're looking at a fatty liver at a young age. Man, that fatty liver is doing so much damage. This is why you got to understand, like, when you see my 600-pound life, man, you're looking at the side effects and damage of having a fatty liver for so long. And the more visceral fat you get, the more your liver is overloaded, the faster the attack starts to happen. You know, man, I'm in the gym on the Stairmaster in my home gym, on the Stairmaster, one of my favorite, pieces of cardio equipment. Man, one of the mistakes we make is, man, I can simply go to the gym and it's going to fix the issue. You know, I'm healthy long as I go to the gym. That's another myth we've been sold. Man, there's a lot of things that factor in to your health. You can go to the grocery store, get all this health food, eat healthy according to labels, go to the gym to work out, and still be struggling with a fatty liver. So, how do we attack this? Man, you want your calories to come from real food. Food is the most high Yah put it here. If you eat, you know, if you eat beef, man, you want it to start or to come from a steak, a slab of beef. You know that it's all ground meat is not the same, but you want it to start off in meat. Man, if you eat potatoes, man, let it come from a potato. You got to look, man, there are like 4,000. When you look at ingredient list on simple foods like pickles have all kind of additives and things like that in it. Man, what that does is it adds to the calories because your body is going to consume this additive. And I think they put that additive in there to preserve color. You're like, why would they do that? Look at a jar of pickles when you go in the grocery store. But your body doesn't know what to do with these additives. Okay? FDA tells you all this stuff is safe, but you got over 4,000 different ingredients, a lot of which you struggle to read and comprehend and pronounce because they're not organic, they're not natural. So when you're eating a lot of processed foods, a lot of your calories are in those additives. You know, make your own salad dressing. Get away from some of this processed stuff. All fruit is not created. Like you can have a fatty liver. Like we're told fruit is healthy. Like most of your grapes in the grocery store are GMO grapes. They're genetically modified to be extra sweet and extra big. Because of that, you're not getting the same nutrition profile as an organic grape, a grape grown on the vine in your own garden. You're not getting the same nutrition profile. Instead, man, you're getting nothing but straight sugar. And when you're when you think about it, a lot of the processed foods we eat being high in carbohydrates, high in fats, what that causes is your body insulin levels to spike. And they're spiking high. Okay? Man, when your insulin level is spiked all day, man, it's signaling the body to store fat. All of those increased calories, you know, are going to lead to more visceral fat. We don't want our body in fat storage mode. You want it in fat burning mode. So counting calories is partially true, but all calories aren't created equal. Man, you take somebody that says eats organic food with correct nutrient profiles, eats 2,000 calories like that, and somebody that eats 2,000 calories worth of processed foods, man, your body, you say, man, all calories is equal. No, they're not, man. No, they're not. Man, one will have, on the outside, you may see slight differences, but the blood work is going to show something completely different. Higher cholesterol, your LDL, HDL levels, blood sugar levels, uh, thickness of the blood, um, echocardiogram, will show heart function. All of this stuff is going to be impacted. When you attack and get after the fatty liver, by not overloading your body, fasting is, man, I got a book in the house. I have to show you guys. And man, it is like you can read this book in 1 or 2 days, and it breaks down, the leading cause of obesity in America being fatty liver because it's signaling your body to store fat. Great book. But if you can get after that, you know, like I said, fasting, we don't never give our body time to rest, time to rest, time for the muscle cells, the cell structures to heal, to repair, because we're constantly cramming. You got to think, man, if you go to McDonald's, IHOP, anywhere, get a breakfast, by the time you get your McCafe latte, that's 400 calories. By the time you get that chicken biscuit, that's 450. By the time you get that hash brown with the ketchup, you look at McDonald's ketchup, they got more sugar in it than anybody else's ketchup. That's 1,000 plus calories. Oh snap! You want some cookies to snack on while you're at work too. Okay, man, you at 1,200, 1,500 calories. Lunch, man, you go to Taco Bell, get you a chalupa, some tacos, and a Baja Blast. Man, you at another 1,000, 1,500 calories. You didn't consume 3,000 calories. You go home, your wife is cooking spaghetti. Man, you didn't ate 3 calorically dense meals throughout that day, and you probably took in 4,500, 5,000 calories. If you snack too, you got thirsty at work, you got a Coke. You got to understand, most stuff in the vending machine, a lot of that stuff, if they got the large bag in there of chips, man, that's 3.5 servings. Who really does the work to wait it out? Or you just stop till you can't go no more. This is the reason why we had a problem we have. So we have to get after this because, man, if you get rid of visceral fat, like quit looking at focusing on the aesthetics, the mirror, all of this, being vain and focus on like the Most High Yah is worried about our spiritual condition, our spiritual condition. And we got to focus on our internal health because that's what goes wrong with you. Heart attack, cancer, all of these different things, you know, Got to get after that fatty liver because it will take you out. We're losing a lot of men due to poor health. You look at somebody like, I'm just using this as an example, bigger X the plug, or you look at a guy who is real skinny, you know, don't look like he have any problems with health or weight, can eat whatever he want, you know, drink beer all the time. Man, you got to think alcohol. Like, men have to understand every man's health journey is going to be different. Nobody's body makeup, chemical structure is the same. We got the same body parts, but every man's body functions a little bit different. The next man pancreas doesn't work at the same effectiveness and efficiency as the next man, so forth and so on. So we got to think about this. Some men, regardless of if the stuff says healthy, you're not going to be able to eat certain things. Certain things you're going to have to stay away from because of your makeup, your, you know, uh, the way your body is set up. You're not going to be able to eat certain things or your body's going to reject it. Certain men are going to be deficient in certain things. So your diet has to include these things in order to get after the issue, which is a fatty liver. You know, man, that takes a lot of men out. And we live in a world, Western culture, that promotes being large, promotes overeating, you know, and historically, like I said, man, it was the Rockefellers that instituted 3 meals a day. You'll be perfectly fine eating 1 meal a day, fasting for the majority of day. And when you eat, man, it's not a pig out, it's not a buffet. Man, men, some men find out the hard way. They should have ate better. You didn't made it to 60, fitting all your clothes, never having a problem, but bro, you got major issues inside. And one thing we can't buy more of is time. Time is the most valuable thing. I don't care how wealthy somebody is, they can't give nobody more time. Most high Yah's in control of that. So, man, we got to learn as men, when you think about striving for Hamashiach-like perfection, we have to, even using the Torah and the guidance we have in there, man, we have to eat for performance, for longevity, rather for pleasure and enjoyment. Pleasure and enjoyment, is how we got here as a society, as a culture. And that doesn't only go for the overweight man. That goes for the skinny man as well. Because his body is doing the same thing, but it is disguised by a high metabolism. And at some point, if the metabolism does fall off or taper off, that's the brother that's gonna get bigger than anything. Like, okay, how many times do we know a brother for, somebody in high school, them through their 30s, and it's like, man, up to 30, they be skinny, no problem whatsoever. You see them in their 40s, man, they done fell off, and you like, woo! They wasn't working out back then. They was eating whatever they wanted. You see them in their 40s, you're like, dang, what happened to such and such? Oh yeah, metabolism tapered off. And when that happens, man, you on the far wrong side because this creeps up on you fast, and that fatty liver takes over. Man, just wanted to share that with you. Talk about men maintaining their health. The key is understanding, the consequences of having a fatty liver. Once again, this is the Set Apart Man, kicking that thing gun barrel straight. Until next time, stay set apart, stay disciplined, stay in the word of the Most High Yahweh.